Welcome to Nasdaq TradeTalks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us for this segment, we have Kemal Armada, Head of Carbon Markets at Climeworks, as well as Joona Kunnas, Regional Head of EMEA at Puro.earth. They join me to discuss standardization of the carbon removal industry and building transparency and trust in the voluntary carbon market. It is great to have you both with us, and we'll start with you, Joona. Explain to us what your business does. Where do you fit within the carbon ecosystem?
Awesome, thank you. Indeed, Puro.earth is the world's leading crediting platform for engineered carbon dioxide removal. We can validate and certify carbon dioxide removal projects from around the world through the Puro standard and their scientific methodologies. For every ton of CO2 removed, the project issues a CO2 removal certificate or a cork into the Puro registry. These corks are then purchased by corporations that have a climate commitment to compensate for their carbon emissions.
And Kemal, if you can explain to us where Climeworks is within the carbon ecosystem.
Happy to. So the beauty of what we do is that we can say it in one sentence. We remove carbon dioxide from the air for our customers. And we do that by building and operating direct air capture plants. Maybe it's interesting to explain quickly how direct air capture works. So in short, imagine a shipping container filled with a sorbent, or in simpler terms, a filter material that captures CO2. We blow ambient air into these containers, and we call these containers collectors. As the air passes through these collectors, the CO2 binds into this filter material. We then release the CO2 by heating this filter material and store it underground through pipes with our partner Carbfix. The CO2 then turns into stone underground in around 2 years through a process called mineralization.
And Joona, can you comment on the carbon removal, the current landscape? What are some of the challenges?
Yeah, indeed. So the world, we're facing a challenge, which is to keep the global temperatures increase below the 1.5 Celsius. Historically, we've unfortunately put too much CO2 into the atmosphere, which is causing the global warming. So carbon dioxide removal must succeed at scale in order to fight this climate crisis. But in carbon removal, we're facing the challenge that not enough projects are coming online at the speed that we need. They do not have enough economic incentives to be established and grow at the pace we require them to. Another challenge is that the carbon credit market, which could channel the financing to these projects that they desperately need, has faced some trust issues in the past. That's really where the Pure standard comes in. We bring a layer of integrity to the voluntary carbon market participants by making sure that the engineered carbon dioxide removal is providing a long-term storage, is scientifically measured, and that it is following the environmental and social safeguards to done properly. So carbon credit buyers have the first worked on reducing the emissions and then purchase corks to compensate for any residual emissions. And the rest assured, they can now be on the way to their net zero targets and their net zero journey.
And Kemal, what are some of the challenges that you see within the carbon space?
Yeah. So first and foremost, CDR is absolutely necessary to keep our planet hospitable. Some emissions, around 10 to 20% of emissions globally, depending on country or study, are very hard to abate, meaning they're likely to take place in a world where we have decarbonized and reduced everything we can within the given timelines. So to ensure the success of CDR industry, there are 3 main things that I would like to highlight. First, net zero is a milestone and not the end. We should not forget that beyond achieving net zero by 2050, the second half of the century should continue with even larger amounts of carbon removals if we want to keep the temperatures within the Paris Agreement targets. Second, CDR needs to be scaled. We are not going to meet that milestone if we do not scale this industry. What's good news in all this is that we know this is achievable. Look at the progress renewable energies have made in the last 30 years. With the investments, right demand and supply side incentives, and policies in place, scaling up is entirely feasible. Third, we need to scale now. We need to act today on emission reductions and for CDR at the same time. This is super crucial not to wait until last year's before net zero. And this is going to take all of us. We need relevant stakeholders to set interim targets for reductions and removals in line with IPCC literature. We need governments to use their policy levers to incentivize investors to invest in this industry and project developers to pursue large-scale projects. And finally, we need standard setters to ensure a common rule of the road for high-quality CDR to ensure trust in the quality and integrity of this market.
And Kemal, you recently made a key announcement. What's the significance behind it?
Yeah, we announced today that Climeworks achieved certification of our carbon dioxide removal services performed at our Orca plant in Iceland under Pure standard. We've been working very hard with our partners, Puro.earth and Carbfix, to achieve this certification. The Puro.earth standard is the first standard for engineered carbon removal methods such as direct air capture. It sets the quality requirements for such solutions and keeps track of the life cycle of CO2 removal certificates from issuance to retirement in a public registry. This is the first time a direct air capture project has been certified by an internationally recognized standards body, and it is an important step towards standardization of the carbon removal industry, building transparency and trust in the voluntary carbon markets.
And Kemal, anything on future plans, whether it's your market forecast, key takeaways for the audience?
Yeah. So if we do not accelerate our efforts, the demand is going to outpace what the developers can deliver. By 2030, the demand is expected to be around 40 to 200 megatons, but the supply will only be around 30 megatons. The gap gets much worse by 2050. So rapid scale up is absolutely crucial. In the near term, we expect a lot of demand to come from voluntary carbon markets through voluntary procurement. In the midterm, we see more and more of public procurement from different governments. And hopefully, sooner rather than later, we expect a shift towards compliance systems with more regulated procurement. The call to action here is act today. I repeat, it is super crucial not to wait until last year before net zero. We need companies to buy CDR, and we need governments to set up markets and funding tools so that we can all together grow this industry to a climate relevant scale.
And if we can have your industry outlook.
Yeah, indeed. So in 2024, it's really shaping up as a year in which CDR capacity scales even further. And Climeworks is a prime example of that. And really, the climate goals depend on these actors. But we need an urgent boost of engagement from corporate buyers and investors. We call on corporations with hard-to-abate emissions to incorporate CO2 removal certificates into their carbon credit portfolio now. We call on investors to channel equity and capital to establish new removal projects. The world must ultimately become a carbon negative economy, and we have a lot of work to do. So indeed, the time to act is now.
All right, Joona, Kemal, we appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.
Thank you.